My brothers and sisters, may the Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Jesus said to the crowds, "This is how it is with the kingdom of God. It is as if a man were to scatter seed on the land and would sleep and rise night and day, and the seed would sprout and grow, he knows not how. Of its own accord the land yields fruit. First the blade, then the ear, then the full grain in the ear. And when the grain is ripe, he wields the sickle at once, for the harvest has come." He said, "To what shall we compare the kingdom of God? Or what parable can we use for it? It is like a mustard seed that, when it is sown in the ground, is the smallest of all the seeds on the earth. But once it is sown, it springs up and becomes the largest of plants and puts forth large branches, so that the birds of the sky can dwell in its shade." With many such parables, he spoke the word to them as they were able to understand it. Without parables, he did not speak to them, but to his own disciples he explained everything in private. The Gospel of the Lord. The Gospel of Mark uses very consistently the image of seeds as a way to imagine what the kingdom of God is like. And it seems some of the scholars would suggest that the reason, perhaps partially, that Jesus used these kind of images in order to proclaim what the kingdom was about was because of the frustration his own disciples were feeling in following him. That they ended up giving up everything to go off with him to preach this message. And unlike the fact that many people, especially in the educated society of the time, looked at it all as kind of a hoax. And we just had a gospel the other day where they suggest that the reason Jesus can do these cures is because he's doing the work of Beelzebub. Beelzebub's giving him the power. So, of course, the disciples are hearing all of this and keep wondering themselves, is this really worth it? Are we really on the right path? Added to that is the fact that we are aware from the scriptures that even up to the time of the ascension, some of these disciples still determined to think that the kingdom that he was going to bring about was a change of political force in Jerusalem, that all of a sudden the foreign occupation would be over with and the nation would come back to them again. And so they're constantly vacillating back and forth as to what this commitment is all about. And so Jesus uses this imagery to suggest that the call to discipleship is just to make the message known and leave the rest to God. Notice both images that he suggests today with putting the seed in the soil and putting the mustard seed in. It begins by somebody doing it, putting it in, but once it's in, then it takes on its own course in its own life. And sometimes it takes longer and sometimes it takes shorter to produce the fruit, but the fruit does come. Sometimes we find ourselves as well falling prey to the same kind of thing. We think that the only way we can determine success is by the quantity as opposed to the quality. Sometimes we even look at our programs within our parishes and what we are accomplishing by the number of people who participate as opposed to the fact that somebody's participating. And so today we're reminded that the obligation for us is to sow the seed, but having sown it, to allow God the freedom and the will to carry it out as he sees fit. And it is not the quantity, it is the quality that marks the kingdom of God.